Hi. Today's target is a fun one. This is one of my favorite things to do when I was a little girl. Today's target is to make a mud pie. To make a mud pie. I happen to have this really gigantic book, and it says how to make a mud pie. And they have mud pie as all one word, and I broke it into two, so I'm going to change that. How to make a mud. I was thinking of it as a mud pie, like two separate things, but mud pie, one thing. So here we go. How to make a mud pie. And I get to move my period over. There. So I'm going to read you this story, and we're going to create a recipe, just like how if your parents cook something, they might have a recipe card they look at, or they might look up a recipe on Google. Well, we're going to write a recipe for our mud pie, so we can think of some fun things as we're reading this book. Think of some fun things you might want to add into your recipe. So, how to make a mud pie. How to make a mud pie. Look at all the containers that they've thought that they could use. Yeah, I like the watering can. That's fun. And then they have some, maybe there's some cooking things in your mom's cupboard that she doesn't really use very often, or that she doesn't want. Or something else I was thinking of is a tinfoil pie plate. I have a few of those. We use them in the classroom a lot for our paint, so that could be used to make a mud pie in for sure. I used to use buckets a lot when I was a kid to make my mud pies, and maybe recyclable containers like a milk jug. Remember how we collect all those milk jugs? Well, a milk jug is actually surprisingly easy to cut. So if you just start, the first cut is tricky because you're cutting where you pour the milk out. But once you get through that, it's really easy. You can cut down and then cut around the edge, and you would end up with the bottom of the bucket would be a perfect mud pie container. So I'm sure that your parents can find some kind of mud pie containers. And then you get to do this definitely outside. Don't bring your mud pie in the house, because that's where you get in trouble. Mud pies stay outside. All right. So this one says, there you go. And it says, you need some dirt. You need some dirt. Always step number one, right? You can see what kind of, it can even be sand, really, as long as you make your sand wet enough, it'll work. I loved clay. If you can add clay into your dirt, you'll get real nice dirt. Here's the next one. What do we think it says? You need some, what are they adding? That's right, water. And there's your period at the end of the sentence. Notice the only letter is that one there. That's your only capital letter. Oh, hold on. We're sharing the computers with the kids, and with my two kids doing their homeschooling. And so they have someone contacting them right now while we're videotaping this. Okay, here we go. Ready? You need some, what are they holding? Spoons. You need some spoons. Oh. You need some pans. We talked about that. Oh, and there's the tinfoil. That boy in the yellow shirt is holding it some tinfoil pie plate right down there. Yeah, that's the one I would use. This is the fun part. So this is the stuff you have to collect when you're outside. You need some What's another word for rocks that starts with an S? Stones. And you need some leaves. Yeah, and maybe you could find flower petals, like especially dandelion petal, like little dandelions. They're fun in there, and you can kind of smash them all up, and then your pie might turn a little bit yellow. Our tulips are done, but the flower petals are still on and they're faded, but they have a little bit of a red stripe in them. That might be cool to add in. So don't pick anything that's alive. Go find some stuff in your yard that has already fallen off the plants. Maybe it's some dry leaves from last year. I have those in my yard. Maybe it's some dead flowers on the top. Like we had a big hydrangea in our yard, and I just finally clipped off the tops before the new ones start to grow. And so they're a really fun dried puffball, and they would be really fun to crumple up into a mud pie. I would love that. You need some kids. That's you. You're going to be the kid that goes and makes the mud pie. Oh yeah, I can see what they're talking about here. Ooh. Oh my gosh. It says you need some soap. And at first I thought they meant add soap to the mud pie, but now actually it means they need soap because they're covered in mud. All right, so here, let's get out our recipe card. Some things that we are going to put into our mud pie outside. All right, so let's think. The very first thing that, we can put down some stones or rocks. Like they said, I'm definitely going to find some rocks. So I'm going to write, well, should we put our title first? Let's put our title Mud Pie. So it's right up here. Mud. A title can have a capital. Mud. Mud. Mud pie. And the only way to make the I say its own name is add an E at the end. There you go. Mud pie. Okay, first thing I want to add, rocks. Rock. And what's the other letter that says the k sound? You need that one too. R-O-C-K. Rock. But I'm not going to add one rock. I'm going to add lots of rocks. So rocks. S. And I bet I can find lots of things in my yard. So what else do you think that you could find in your yard? Can you think of other things? Yeah, I like it. Seeds. I heard one of you say seeds. Let's write that down. E. Two of them. Seed. And are you only going to put one seed? No, lots. Seeds. Rocks. Seeds. You know what else I always love to add that was kind of special? It's not from outside, it's from the kitchen. I would go talk to my mom or my Aunt Sandy when we were at her cabin, and she would give us some old spices that maybe she was not going to use, or some ones that had gotten kind of old and she wanted to replace them, and so she would let us put real spices into our mud pie. That was fun. So let's write down spices. And you have to go ask your mom for the spices out of the kitchen. So spice. Now instead of an S, we're actually going to use a C today. It's the tricky sound. Spice. Now to make the I say his own name, let's add an E at the end. So I have spice. But I'm not just going to add one tiny spice. It would be so tiny. I want to add spices. So add an S. Spices. That will be fun. What else can you find outside? Do you know, I have I bet I can find some shells outside. Now, I don't live at the beach, but I have gone to the beach and collected shells so many times with my kids that I have buckets of shells in my backyard. Like, I have a wheelbarrow full of rocks and shells. We have a tote full of rocks and shells. It's like, it's a little crazy. So I'm going to write shells. You might be able to find shells too. Sometimes you can find an old snail shell from last year, or sometimes there's like little, you've probably been to the beach too and brought home clam shells and things. So you might find a shell. Anyways, I'm going to write down shell. Shh. 2 letters. Say that sound. Shh. S-H. Yep. Shh. Eh. 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 Shh. Eh. Shh. L. And I need 2 of those L's. And only 1 shell? Lots. Shells. Shells. I don't have too much more. Oh, but you know what I have to add? Dirt. Of course. What would a mud pie be if it didn't have any dirt or soil? Duh. We have a tricky so I'm going to go IR. That's your tricky R sound. Dirt. Dirt. And, so I can do a plus. Dirt and, do you know the way, what's the scientific symbol for water? Starts with an H. H2, yeah, H2O. So I'm going to write that down. H2O. And that means water. So let's go outside. Go find your supplies. You're going to need spoons and buckets or whatever you're going to need to get. And then you're going to need to get things all collected out, and then you can start mixing them. Now, sometimes, I'll show you the front picture again of these kids that made their mud pies. Sometimes we would mix, when I was a kid, we would mix our, there it is. We would mix our dirt and rocks and stuff into the mud. And these kids have then saved some so they can also decorate the top of their mud pie. I like that idea too. So I would add some of the rocks and some of the spices and the flower petals and whatever I find. Ooh, pine cones maybe. It's a fun one. Mix them all up like that. And then I would save some of the special things to sprinkle on top, like kind of like sprinkles on a cake. In fact, maybe your mom even has extra real sprinkles for cakes in her cupboard that she's never going to use. We have some that are so hard, they actually like would hurt your teeth. So I wouldn't mind if Olivia was going to make a mud pie, or Ethan, and they use those real sprinkles on top of their mud pie. That would be okay with me too. So maybe your parents have something like that you can go add. So have a super fun time outside making mud pie. Send me pictures. I would love to see them, and I'll send you a picture of my mud pie. Okay, have a super fun time.